All right, the Epoch Times, Brian Cates in his series Year of Vindication. This is Year of Vindication Part 3, Svetlana Lokhova by Brian Cates, published May 1st, 2020 in the Epoch Times. Before the year 2020 is over, I believe 6 people targeted and smeared as traitors by the Russiagate hoax will have been completely vindicated. The first column in this continuing series focused on President Donald Trump, how he insisted that Russiagate was a hoax, and how much evidence has been brought to light that has proven him right. In the second column, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn's long-running case was discussed, and how he was targeted by dirty cops inside the DOJ and FBI. His third installment covers Svetlana Lokhova, who was an intelligence historian at Cambridge University specializing in Soviet-era espionage. That is, she was, until some anonymous person began feeding stories to the media about how a Russian agent at Cambridge overtly attempted to compromise General Flynn back in 2014 when he was still the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, or DIA. As a direct result of these false stories circulating in the media, Lokhova lost her position at Cambridge, as well as a book contract. Lokhova strongly suspects the anonymous source for these accusations was former Cambridge professor and FBI informant Stefan Halper, something he has denied. According to Lokhova, the goal was to place Trump's former national security advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, under suspicion of being a Russian agent through a series of targeted leaks to the news media. It is because of these leaks that this innocent academic at Cambridge ended up losing her job and was dragged into the middle of the biggest political scandal in history. Ms. Lokhova has a forthcoming book about Halper, The Spider, Stefan A. Halper and the Dark Web of a Coup, that is due to be released in August. In February 2014, when Flynn was still DIA director, he was invited to attend the annual Cambridge Intelligence Seminar, which included a private dinner. Also attending the dinner were Sir Richard Dearlove and Christopher Andrew, former top MI6 officials, Flynn, and the UK's DIA liaison, Dan O'Brien. In other words, this room was filled with long-time intelligence professionals. Keep that in mind as you hear the story unfold. The anonymous source told reporters that as all these guests at the dinner were looking with growing concern as Lokhova began to try to compromise the DIA director, which I guess means she was avidly trying to seduce him in a very crowded room. It is then claimed that Flynn and Lokhova, who had just met for the first time, left the dinner together, much to the consternation of the other guests. So concerned were these onlookers about Lokhova's blatant attempts to compromise the DIA director that no one told this ludicrous tale to the media until 3 years later, in March of 2017, after the election, and after Flynn had already resigned as Trump's national security advisor. Now, if this story, told by this anonymous source, strikes you as being completely absurd, you are not alone. Breaking down the fiction. The first iteration of this Flynn-Lokhova narrative appeared in the Wall Street Journal on March 17, 2017, headlined, "Mike Flynn Didn't Report 2014 Interaction with Russian British National." The very first paragraph of this story contains a glaring falsehood. Quote, "Former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn interacted with a graduate student with dual Russian and British nationalities at a 2014 UK security conference, a contact that came to the notice of U.S. intelligence, but that Mr. Flynn, then the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, didn't disclose, according to people familiar with the matter." End quote. As I have previously mentioned, the DIA's UK liaison, Dan O'Brien, was present and would have observed Flynn's interactions with Lokhova. The article claims that Flynn and Lokhova sat next to each other. According to Lokhova, this is not true, as they sat on opposite sides of the table. The story also claims that Flynn and Lokhova left the Cambridge dinner together. In fact, Flynn left the dinner in the company of O'Brien, and Lokhova left with her partner. Halper, the alleged source for the claims, was himself not even present for this 2014 dinner. So, if he turns out to have been the source for this Wall Street Journal article and other similar stories, outlets who published these allegations will have some explaining to do. The sad truth is, this story about Flynn and Lokhova worked. Concurrent with other fake stories being circulated in the media at the time, a strong narrative was launched and sustained that it had been proven that Flynn was a Russian agent. Presently, U.S. Attorney John Durham is investigating the origins of the Spygate scandal. From what I have learned of Ms. Lokhova through my research and interactions with her, if evidence does eventually surface to establish that Stefan Halper was behind these fake stories about her, he is going to truly regret picking her to play the Russian Mata Hari, if he doesn't already.